All right. I believe we are here. Live.
We live? Are we live on?
Finally, live.
Trying to get this sorted. It's been crazy, and we'll kind of tell you about why it's been crazy.
Yeah, we've been.
Are we on YouTube?
I believe we should be. It's we're inviting a few people here. We had like 3-4 things going at the same time. It's been pretty nuts, and we'll explain that in just a minute as soon as we get our people on. We've invited, and it'll probably take them a minute to sort it.
I'm just hammering them with text messages. So, would it be? They didn't get anything. Would it be in their Gmail?
Yeah, in their Gmail probably. We can also copy this. Can you do copy? And there you go. Yeah, they probably got it. All right, we got.
Just so I got in this last time when you did it with me.
Mm-hmm.
You just added the people.
Yeah, added you through your Gmail and you came in. Hey guys, we're sorting it out here. We had some last minute international things going on. We'll explain to you in a minute as we tried to set this up. It's been an interesting afternoon, and we'll get Lori and Alyssa on here in just a couple of minutes.
So I think we've got Colin and Cyril Torigo. Luke, hello guys. Bear with us while we get our guests on, but let us know how you're doing. They're wondering if we emailed them the link. Just, technology. We're just figuring it all out. We're new here.
Just email them through that, maybe. I mean, Google should have emailed them.
Alyssa and Lori.
Lori won't be on there.
Hi. Oh, hey, I hear some noises.
All right.
Some people. Where's our Google Hangout? Now I've lost Hangout.
Do you see me?
I can see you. So we have Alyssa on.
All right.
And
I'm gonna be here
live. Oh, we're live. Oh gosh.
We're currently live. But we have a very cool group of audience. We've got Colin, Luke, and Tracy. In fact, I'm gonna put my laptop over here.
Ooh.
On. Yeah, we I'll probably clear that out right there. We'll explain to you in a minute, Alyssa, unless Viv has already done so. We'll explain to the audience why it was a little bit hectic to start this.
Okay. Do we need to figure out how to get Lori on here?
Yeah. So whatever you eventually did, could you repeat the process for Lori?
Yeah, I pulled mine up on my iPhone, whatever conversation from my computer. So, you know what? Let me just call her because
everybody on the crew should know Alyssa by now because she was in Alaska and China.
And if you don't know, who she is, I'm
gonna get some links.
I dropped
nothing. So
her right there, that top link. That's her.
Access. Do you have? Do you have access to your text conversations on your computer?
And Alyssa, you can turn your microphone off.
Okay, I'm gonna send you the link and just click on it on there and it'll pop up.
I think we can turn it.
Can we control Alyssa?
Yeah. There, we muted her. Remember, she's still muted, so if she tries to talk,
well, yeah, we should.
We have to unmute her.
So while Alyssa is getting herself sorted, we got a call from India about our flights. How do we unmute Alyssa so we can hear her? No.
Click that.
Hold on a second. We didn't click that.
Oh, should be able to.
You're permanently muted now.
Right
now.
Oh, you're back.
Okay.
Right there?
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
All right.
Send Lori this link. Technology.
I know, we're totally all over it.
I don't know if it's so much technology this afternoon as it was just everything came colliding right at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, what are the odds of that?
So Alyssa was going to join us on this India trip, but she's gotten herself a cool job.
Well, I don't know yet how cool it is. I mean, it sounds cool, but we'll see once I get there.
Right.
So, yeah, freelance editing for Discovery Channel for Shark Week.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
I do that for 3 weeks, and then I go to Europe for a nice little family reunion.
Very nice. Well, and now you're not stressed about the reunion.
Exactly, because everyone's like, you know, because I was going to go to Scandinavia. Everyone's like, you know, those are like the most expensive cities up there. Like, good time to be unemployed.
Very nice. So, well, hopefully this India trip actually is so good that we do land a job over there and you get to come and help produce it.
Yeah, I would love to go to India.
Yeah, should be.
Has Brian been before?
I don't know, actually.
I don't believe so, no. Sounds like he hasn't. It's been moving so fast. We haven't had a chance to even ask him if he's ever been.
Oh, he's just like, yes, I'm in. I'm going.
He's like, I'll come. All right. So, and to explain to our viewers why we're just a little bit delayed is just at the moment we're about to go live, Eric got a call from the... We have Laurie on board. Hey, Laurie.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Thanks for joining us on our live chat.
Nice.
No problem. How are you?
We're pretty good. I briefly met Laurie for the first time in person in New York.
Okay, all right.
It was a fleeting passing of the ships.
I'm Eric.
It was. Hello, Eric. Nice to meet you.
Yes. I think, why don't we give a quick sum up so even Laurie can hear what just happened, and I'll sit here till I got to do my thing.
Till you got to go again. So I was just explaining, we actually called Alyssa a few days ago to see if she wanted to come to India with us, because I'm sure, as you know, Laurie, these projects come up last minute and suddenly it's like, so Alyssa couldn't because of a job, and so we called Brian, who it's all very connected.
Yeah.
People that we have here. And so Brian has jumped on board, but India hasn't gotten our flights yet because they're being given to us by the tourism body.
Yeah.
And of course, they decided to call with the details of the flights for a flight on Saturday, which is in 2 days, right now when we're about to start going live.
Right, of course. So, did you guys get that sorted? Are you going to India?
So Eric and Brian have a flight.
You have a flight too. We just haven't.
I have an internal flight from Delhi to Manali. But they have an international flight. It's very organized.
Nice. Sounds about right. That sounds normal.
We're getting it sorted out, but I'm going to have the guy calling me back, tourism calling me back, and so I'm going to be in and out, which I didn't plan, but
that's all good.
We got to start, but we want to get to why we've got you guys here.
Do you want to give us a rundown? I've put up the link that shows Alyssa in the crew and the stuff she's done with us. Do you want to introduce yourselves and how you know everyone?
Sure. So I'm the director of Jordan Football Dreams. I met Brian and Alyssa at Vivo. Is this recorded now, or are we
live? By the way,
live. Hey guys.
To give you an idea,
is this for you or for the universe?
To give you an idea, this is live, and so we actually have an audience that will kind of accumulate and listen while we do this. But we'll have some question answers maybe, but this is more just us hanging out.
Okay, cool.
About your project, but this will be memorialized, so don't say anything you don't want said.
Gotcha. Saved on the internet forever.
Yeah, we have a very cool group of people that tune in. We've got a couple that have already said hello, and we've got there's a lot that watch that don't comment. But we just hang out, we do chats, and we like to grab guests on when we can. And we end up having a good chat, and you guys have an interesting project. So we thought,
for sure. So yeah, I mean, I guess I'll give you, a background on the project. I first had the idea to make this film about the women's soccer team from Jordan when I was in graduating from college, and I was studying the Middle East, and I had played soccer my whole life, and I started to wonder whether there were any women's soccer teams in the Middle East, and could they ever qualify for a World Cup? And I thought, wow, how huge would that be for like women's rights in the region, and just kind of around the world too, if they were able to break that barrier for women sports players in the Middle East. And for people who don't know, it's very, in the Middle East and in the Arab world, many women do not play sports. Like, it's very traditional for a woman to not do that, and to kind of just to, right now, like, go to college, but kind of just in a way, like, live, like, be a housewife and do that traditional path. So they're kind of breaking barriers, these women. But yeah, and so I pulled together Brian and Alyssa. Brian and Alyssa and I all used to work together at Vivo. And you know, told them about this passion project that I've had for a long time, and they were both pretty excited about it and wanted to hop on board. And that's kind of how it all started.
Can you tell them a little bit, just briefly, what Vivo is, where you guys met?
Do you want to chair, by the way?
Yeah. Vivo is a music company that has music videos on YouTube, basically. But we used to be on the original content team for Vivo, and just we used to make original content with artists and that type of thing. Yeah.
Cool. So this was a little different, stepping out into the Middle East.
Yes, very different.
What was like the most different thing? Like the first thing you're like, oh, this is totally different.
God, I mean, there's so much, but it's weird because it was different, but it didn't feel out of place or out of character for me. Like these are the type of stories I've always wanted to do. So it just felt like I was doing what I was always supposed to be doing. I mean, it was obviously different in the sense of, you know, at Vivo, you're working with artists, and out there, it's like you have to like win over, you know, your characters and have them get to know you and have them feel comfortable around you and build that trust, which is an incredible challenge that working at Vivo, we never had the time to do that with artists, because it was, you know, a quick hour-long interview and then you're out, and there's no time to really build that trust into the project that you're doing. And here, that was probably the biggest difference, just as far as making a film.
For the people who are interested in filmmaking and producing, they're always, the big question is, how did this like happen? Did you know, they say, okay, you got an idea, and then all of a sudden you just appear with cameras? Can you briefly talk about the process to get there?
Yeah, for sure. You know, part of it is just a leap of faith. I think
we know this one.
Yeah, you guys know the answer to this for sure. I mean, look, like I said, this had been a passion project of mine for 8 years. And so I knew I always wanted to do it. And what really changed for me was when I started to build a team around it. And Brian and Alyssa came on to help. And that kind of went from feeling like, oh, I'm not so alone in this, to, wow, I can do this. And like, these people are really excited about it. And we're just going to go out there and make it happen. And so Brian and I just decided to kind of fund the whole thing and go out there and make it. And we did a crowdfunding campaign also, just to raise some costs for travel and living and food while we were over there. But yeah, I mean, it's really just a leap of faith. You have to have like enough passion and dedication to something to just go after it for a documentary or for any of your own personal projects. And I think I definitely had that, and I kind of brought that to the project, and Alyssa and Brian had built into that as well. So yeah.
Did you have to deal with any like permissions to get over there to do this? Did they know who you were?
Yeah, so I had filmed with the team before we went over there. I filmed with the team last summer when they came to the US for a training camp. And so I had already built some foundation with the team and with the media officer over there. And, you know, in order to get over there, we had to get certain permissions from the Royal Film Commission and permissions from the team to allow us to go film. And all of that happened very fast, probably within a week. And we booked our flights and we just went. But yeah, there were definitely some things that we had to get squared away before we went. Otherwise, you're just kind of really taking a chance if you don't have the access, you know.
Totally. So,
and,
oh yeah.
I was just gonna say one little fun fact. When you go over there to Jordan, you get a visa, and I don't know if there's like different types of visas, but we got one that was only like a 30-day one. So when we were leaving the country, we actually got fined. So a little tip, you're going to Jordan.
Yeah, a tourist visa is only 30 days.
Yeah.
And so like you can stay longer, you just get fined, which we did.
Yeah.
Is it a big fine?
No, it wasn't bad, but you know, when you're like going to the airport and you have to like deal with one more step, it's kind of like,
You know what? We happen to be very familiar with that in Nepal, where we did the same thing.
We actually had to get a new visa.
A brand new
Went
visa.
all the way back down, out of the country. Back. I don't even know how that even worked.
There's a little space where you can walk out of the country and then come back in,
and then they're like, "Here's your new visa." You're like, perfect.
Yes, of course.
So I had a question for, I mean, both of you guys can jump in and answer, about, and I know a little bit because we've been following the project online. You go over there with a rough idea of the story and a hopeful idea of the story, particularly in this case that the women would make the World Cup. How do you plan for if they don't, or maybe there are other elements of your story that you weren't able to lock down and you had to kind of wait and see what happened?
Yeah, that was definitely something that, you know, when we went over there, we had obviously hoped that they would qualify. But in doing a documentary, you never know. And it's funny, a lot of people asked me before I left, they were like, if they don't qualify, do you still have a story? And I would say, yeah, we still have a story, but I wasn't entirely sure what it was. And as we got over there and we started to get to know all the players and the girls and learned that this had been like their dream forever to qualify for this tournament. And then when they didn't get it, it's kind of this intense feeling of, you know, what do you do when everything you've ever worked for, just you don't get it and your dreams collapse? And that's exactly what happened. And so in a way, it's just following the story, you know, and what happens, because in a way the story became more interesting, because it's a more human story. I think it's a more relatable story. How many people who go after their dreams and go after everything they've ever wanted get it? Not a lot of people. And so I think in a way it sucked so much, and I felt like we wanted them to make it, of course. But at least from like a story perspective in making a film, it's, you know, following these players and where do they go from here? What do they keep playing on the team? What becomes of their lives? What are the new dreams that they're going to go after? So yeah.
Yeah, because some of the girls, the ages of the girls range too. So you had girls that were like 30 years old, and then the youngest was what, like 16, something like that. So for like the younger girls, it's like they're still bummed, but it's not as like much of a blow as it is for, I remember one of the girls who's 30, like we interviewed her a few days after the tournament was over, and she could barely talk to us about it. She's like, I haven't even spoken about this yet because it was just so devastating for her.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, as a filmmaker, you're kind of used to that, moving and shucking and jiving with your story, but
yeah, and so it's like she's crying in front of you, and you're like asking her these hard questions, and as like a producer director, you're like, in your mind, you're like, this is really great because it's true human emotion, but also like, where do you draw the line? Is like, I need to like stop, like give you your personal space and not be so intrusive. So
yep.
But I think we actually did a good job of that because we got to know the girls so well. So we kind of like understood their personalities, like who we could push a little more, who we couldn't.
Now, this actually isn't the first time that this has kind of happened to us and you, Alyssa. In fact, the last time we worked together was in China. We had this race to the summit of a mountain, and of course the weather came in and blew out the summit of the mountain. And so, of course, they were doing this half race to the summit. And so we're sitting there. In fact, there wasn't going to be a race at all. I don't know if you want to pick the story up. I mean, I think our viewers have watched the stuff on the behind the scenes, but unfortunately, this is 2 projects in a row, Alyssa.
Oh yeah, I think for me, well, the most challenging part was not dying on the mountain, but the second was like that edit, because it's like the part where they're actually racing them had to be so much shorter, but in a way like it couldn't be in the edit. So that was a situation where the story change made it a little difficult in that sense. Man, could you imagine though if we risked our lives like that and they were like, oh, there's no race. Documentary.
What was it like in Jordan, speaking of risking your life? I mean, I know about Jordan, but most people don't. They just consider it the Middle East. Yeah,
tell our audience about Jordan. You know, your first impressions. I assume it was the first time for both of you there.
Yeah. It's funny, when I told people I was going, everyone was like, my family, my mom, they were like, are you sure? You know, it's dangerous. Like everyone was so scared, and I was like, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. And really, I think, I mean, because Jordan is like lumped into the whole Middle East, it gets a bad rep, but it's such a cool country, and Amman is such a cool city. I mean, I never felt ever unsafe there. I would say about the weather, it's very dusty, at least in the time that we were there. Like you could just see the dust all over the city. But I mean, Jordan itself, I would say the number one thing about the people there is the hospitality of them all. Like we would go to film at someone's house and they would just have like a whole spread of food laid out for us, drinks, like juices, teas, coffees, desserts, and everywhere we went, this is how it was. And we would sit and have a meal with everyone when we went to someone's house, because that's just the culture there. And that was probably, for me, one of the most surprising things that I just didn't realize about their culture. And it's something that I realized, I'm like, I want to bring that back here to America, because I feel like we kind of lost that a little bit somewhere along the way, you know?
That is definitely something that we've experienced. And the more, I guess you would say, controversial the region is, and more conflicted the region is, the more they do that, we find.
Yeah.
I think every country, nearly every country we've been to, you encounter this kind of hospitality. And, you know, there's other items along with that where we just sit back and we go, what happened to us? Why are we just isolate each other from each other? It's really, really a nice thing. That's cool you guys were able to experience that.
I'm going to take a pause to put some links up for some viewers that have joined and people have said hello. I'm going to put your Vimeo link up to your Well, is that the best way to like share people that project?
Yeah, share the Vimeo link.
Okay, cool. We'll put that up in the comments. Yeah, it's really interesting once people start to travel, but it even gets more interesting once you start to work in the area you're traveling to. Do you guys have any moments that were, I guess, an experience for you?
Like when it came to being out in the field working and like, I think it's funny because in New York, you see people, I live in New York for those who don't know, me and Lori both do. But you see people like shooting and filming on the street all the time. And so it's normal and no one like really gives production people the time of day. But like in Jordan, we would be out on the street with cameras and like all the cars would be honking. Everyone would be waving. Like people thought they were like on TV. Everyone's so excited. So like that was cool because instead of like being a nuisance, people just thought it was really awesome that we were there with cameras. So that was cool.
That's pretty cool.
So when you have a question?
Well, I was going to jump. One of my favorite questions is always asking people, because we know about this with filmmaking. What was the worst thing that kind of happened? Like when was the shit hitting the fan? Where that could be like, you know, health issues, personal things. It could be film related. It could be like, we thought we had this interview, and I just, those stories that are so bad they're good, and you just tell them it's like you couldn't even write it as a script.
Yeah. Well, I got the flu the last week we were there, and ended up in the Jordan hospital with like 102 fever, which was not fun. And I that was not fun, and that was like the end when it was like, okay, you've worked enough, you're exhausted. Your body has hit a wall. You're done. I mean, that was one thing for me. I think, and generally for us, one of the toughest things was once the tournament started, I think the team wasn't used to having cameras around and the pressure of media. And it's something that, you know, dealing with that and then dealing with a lot of the entities as far as access when the tournament started. So like the Asian Football Confederation and Lagader Sports were like two different entities that we had to deal with as far as getting rights to film inside the stadium and that type of thing. And I think all of those little pieces of getting, you know, as much access as we wanted during the tournament, like having so many different people involved made it difficult. And I think that was one of the biggest challenges for us, was just dealing with all of that and trying to find a best way to tell the story when we couldn't get access to certain things that we wanted.
Oh, so I was going to take a pause because we've got some questions filtering in from our audience now. This is Luke, would like to know, when doing a project where you have time to get to know the people involved, how did you balance recording the story and not becoming part of the story?
It's a great question. Hi, Luke, by the way. No, that's an amazing question. I think it's so hard, and it's something that I think it's a really hard question to answer, because for me, it comes down to gut in the moment a little bit. And I think it's, you know, getting comfortable with your characters, at least at first off camera a little bit, so that they know that you're not just there to, you know, capture every little thing and just feel like you're media. You want to develop that relationship with them and make them comfortable around you. But then once they start to feel that, then I think it's bringing out the camera and getting them, you have to get them comfortable around the camera and get them comfortable talking to you and talking to the camera. And I think, you know, in a way, you know, how much are we involved in the story? I think for us, like fly on the wall isn't the right term of filmmaking for this, because we weren't flies on the wall. We were involved with our characters. And I don't think I think in any documentary, I think that type of term is not really accurate, because no matter what, as a director, as a producer, you are interacting with them. And in a weird way, you are kind of part of the story, but you have to filter out yourself. You have to filter yourself out of it, find a way to do that so that you're not really, you know, impacting them or impacting like the decisions that they make. I guess you could say is the best way. But yeah, in the moment, it's just going off gut.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have something to add on that too. I think Lori is super right with like the whole gut thing. And I think it's like personal preference. I know I personally like when there's a piece of like the production that kind of you can like see it in the project. In the trailer, if you watch it through, there's a part where there's like a shift in the trailer, and Lori, like when she's filming, she puts the camera down, and then you hear the audio of her voice saying, what's your football dream? And for me, I just feel like that's like a super powerful moment. So I guess it's just like, it's really feeling when you're telling the story when to use those moments. So
yeah, it's interesting. I think as a filmmaker, you're never completely detached. I mean, in making a documentary, I think it's nearly impossible. Like in some way you are influencing the story just by being there.
Right.
You know? So,
yeah. So there's a quick question that's come through from Matt. He'd like to know where we can watch the documentary. So do you want to tell us where you're at in the process, what's available now?
Hi, Matt. So I would say we're about 50% done filming, maybe 60%. And we still have more to film. So we're starting editing all of the footage that we've shot so far. But as we were talking about earlier, I think a lot of the story comes now in what happens after the fact that they didn't qualify for the World Cup and what happens to these girls in their lives. And so we are going to film more either in the fall or in the spring or both, and hope to have something finished by next year.
Cool. So without giving away your entire story, what can you tell us? Is there a small story? Is there one of the girls that you can tell us a little bit about, the story that you particularly liked and gravitated to?
So one of the characters, her name is Amfel. She is someone that I had met originally in Florida. And when we showed up in Jordan, she just like, when she saw me, she just ran up and gave me this big hug. And she is someone who had left the team for a little while for a personal reason and came back. And so I was like so excited to see her there. And she just has this amazing story because, you know, she comes from a difficult background, I guess you could say, and she has overcome so much to get where she is today. I mean, that's like very general, but she is just also has such a personality on camera and is such a lovable, heartwarming human being that I think anyone who watches her, they're just going to fall in love with her. And she's one of those that's just like so strong and it just constantly blew me away with everything that she's overcome to get where she is today.
So I understand when I was chatting with Alyssa about the project, she was telling me there's actually quite a mix of demographics within the women in the team. There's some that have come from quite poor backgrounds and some that are extremely rich and have these maids and that are part of their family.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that and the culture that you saw through that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was really interesting for us because, you know, in looking at, I guess, our 4 main characters we have, it's just a variety of demographics, ages, backgrounds, which I think makes it really interesting. You know, we have one girl who's like just graduated high school. We have one girl who I was just telling you about who comes from like a poor background. We have one girl who's like, her father owns a football team in Amman, and she, you know, used to be a professional gymnast, and she's one of the older girls on the team. And then we have another girl who is just kind of more like middle class, but is so passionate about soccer, and she's kind of, again, that middle age, like right in the middle of her 20s. So I think it's interesting that we have we have younger players, we have older players, we have players right in the middle, and we have players from like all different backgrounds and demographics. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they compare and contrast in the film when it's out.
So taking a broader look at, I guess, soccer in the context of Jordan and women over there, is this unusual, or is this like, I mean, I know that you said it's unusual for women to be doing sport. I mean, is soccer an even more unusual choice? Is it a popular sport there anyway?
Soccer is definitely a popular sport there for sure. I mean, you drive around Amman and you see all these little boys playing soccer all the time, all over the city, just on the street. So it's definitely a popular sport there. I mean, I think for women in Jordan, it's become, over the past, especially like 5-10 years, it's become much more popular. But when you still look at like the amount of women in Jordan, like most of them are not doing that, and it still isn't. It's just kind of turning the corner to become more acceptable, but it's still, for some families, is still taking some convincing for them that it's like it's okay like for women to play.
Right.
So yeah.
And I think they really are, that team is really paving a way for like a younger generation over there in Jordan, because even before the tournament, we would just like talk to some of the fans, and there were like young women who were wearing jerseys and telling us like who their favorite player is on the team. So they're definitely making moves over there.
Definitely. And you look at other countries in the region too. I mean, a lot also have women's soccer teams, but I don't think any have invested as much or come as far as the Jordanian women's team. So they're kind of a model, I think, for women's teams as far as the region goes also.
Yeah, awesome. So tell us a little bit. I also saw, because we're friends on Facebook and stuff, I saw you guys traveled around Jordan. What was that like? I heard you hit some really touristy spots, and then you found some secluded stuff. You did some stuff with Bedouins. Do you want to talk a little bit about
that? Sure. I mean, there was one weekend where we were just like, we gotta do this for us. You know, we gotta like travel and get out of town. And we went to Petra and Wadi Rum, and Petra is like an old city that, like a lost city that was uncovered years ago. And it was pretty touristy, but it was pretty beautiful and pretty insane. And then Wadi Rum is the desert over there, and that's kind of where they filmed The Martian. And we kind of just spent time with Bedouins. So like, you know, people who just live in the desert, and slept under the stars one night with a Bedouin who made us this like homemade meal in the dark, and like hiked up a mountain to get firewood for our dinner, like just crazy stuff. But yeah, it was, I mean, I know for me, that was an amazing experience, Alyssa. I don't know if you have any stories that you want to talk about.
Yeah, no, Wadi Rum was definitely the best, I think, just because it was like so cool to see the people that just live out there. Like our guide, basically, he used to be in the military, or like, what was that, Lori? I don't know, but he decided he just wanted to get away from everything and go live in the desert. So like he showed us, yeah, he like showed us all of his favorite spots, made us that delicious meal, And yeah, like Lori was saying, he cooked it in the dark, and he like had the tiniest light to use to cook it. And I remember thinking, I had this thought at the end, I was like, man, we really should have given him our headlamp, but that's okay. It was like one of those things where it was so late into like him cooking that I was like, if I said this right now, I would just come off like a huge asshole. So I'm just gonna not say that. And then me and Brian also went to the Dead Sea, but unfortunately, because of the weather, they thought the waves were too rough, so we couldn't actually float in the Dead Sea. So we put all of the mud on, which you're supposed to do, and then you wash it off in the water. So we're standing there with all the mud on us, and then I'm walking to go in the Dead Sea to scrub it off, and he's like, no. I was like, what the heck? What am I supposed to do with this now? So then we just had to stand under those little showers, like when you go to the beach to wash the sand off. That's how we had to take the mud off. So
cool. Awesome.
Sure, if you go, you're allowed to go in the water.
So Matt, actually, while you're talking about that, Matt had a follow-up question. He's actually a big football fan from England, and he just wanted to know, over there in the Middle East, where football is quite a big sport, do they follow England? Do they support English teams, Spanish teams? Do you have much idea of, how much they follow?
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for the big fans over there, like I know the girls on the team and people who worked for the football club over there. I mean, they all followed like the English Premier League and the big games. They were all watching the championship league final a few weeks ago. So yeah, it's their model. It's a model, for football.
Do they have favorite teams and idols and?
I'm trying to remember. I mean, they had some. At least the girls on the team had some favorite players, like a lot of U.S. players, like women, like Carly Lloyd was one of the girls' favorite players. Yeah.
What's your opinion now that you've obviously been immersed in it, with a Middle Eastern female soccer team, football team, making it to the World Cup? Do you think I think it's possible, and I'm just on the outside, but what's your opinion?
Yeah, they had a real shot. They had a real shot to do it. And, through various factors, it didn't work out in their favor, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to happen at some point. I 100% believe it's going to happen at some point. I hope it's the Jordan team, because it's always been their dream. But yeah, I totally believe that it will happen. I believe this is just the beginning. Like, it's not like they're going to stop, these girls didn't qualify, so women's soccer, bye-bye. Like, no, like they're going to keep putting money behind it and investing in it, because I think it is so important for them to do that.
That's very cool. So tell us then a little bit about your goals with future projects. How much are you going to follow this story beyond this documentary, and what other stuff are you pursuing? And both you and Alyssa can answer this, outside of Vivo and your own personal projects.
Yeah, I know for me personally, this is a really exciting time, because I'm starting to work on applying to grants for this project, editing some of the film, and so obviously finishing the film, following up with the girls and getting their stories post the World Cup qualifying tournament. And then, for me, it's working on different projects, finding different collaborators, freelancing, and just kind of whatever intrigues me, I'm going to work on. So if anyone has any projects, call me up.
Very cool. What's your theme though? Not so much theme, but like, is there a certain type of project? Like, you've obviously said this is your dream project.
Yeah.
Women's stories, is it international stories? What attracts you most about the story you want to tell?
Both of those, women's stories, international stories. I think the way that I like to approach storytelling, like, there's always a human element to it, and it's always about telling someone's story, and there's a larger context, a larger story that you're telling by telling this person's story. And I think that's something that I've always excelled at, is like creative visual storytelling, and focusing on the human being, and focusing on what makes them tick, what makes them happy, what makes them sad, and kind of how that connects us all together as human beings. So any way that I can work on doing stories like that on an international level, here in the States, that's kind of always been my dream.
Fantastic. Actually, this might you be able to answer another question that's popped up from our audience. What inspired you to do this particular project about Jordanian women's football? I think we may have touched on it briefly early on, but for viewers that have come in a little later, doing a recap.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, I studied the Middle East in college, and so I just was so interested in the region and loved the culture. And I have played soccer my whole life, and so I always wondered about a women's soccer team in the Middle East and whether they could qualify for the World Cup someday. Why the Jordanian team? Because I think when I was researching teams, they had the best chance to do that. They were putting, I think they were putting more investments behind their women's soccer team and their women's soccer program. And throughout the years, I had talked to like various girls on the team and got their stories just on like Facebook or WhatsApp. And I was so inspired by the fact that, you know, for me, when I was 5 years old, I could just go play in a soccer league and it was no problem with a bunch of boys and girls. And it was like, yeah, it's totally normal. And I can't imagine not having that. And these girls didn't have that. And they came so far in their lives to just kind of break that barrier. And that's why, I mean, that's why we're doing this story. Does that answer the question? I totally forgot what the question was. But
it was what inspired you to do this particular project about Jordanian women's football, and that answered it for me.
That covers it.
Let us know, people out there, if that you want to follow up on that question.
Yeah.
Now, I was. Did you have anything to add on? What was my previous question, Alyssa? I was talking about
where go.
Projects that inspire you and what you want to pursue.
I mean, Lori will tell you too. I feel like I'm constantly changing my mind on what I want to do, which I guess is fine. But I really just want to experience as many different like cultures and countries, honestly, as I can through the work that we do. So like filmmaking, whatever, and anything where I can be creative and like trying something new. Like I'm extremely excited to edit these videos for Shark Week, just because it's like why not? And I can't remember the last time that I was strictly an editor, probably for the China doc, but like, you know,
you're quite the producer on that as well.
Yeah. So
on a tent to the side of a mountain and went, hey, I hope you are shooting something up there.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm just excited to keep like meeting people in the industry, keep getting new opportunities, whether it's editing, producing, any of that.
Yeah. So you've come in at the perfect time, because I was about to, we're kind of approaching close to an hour, but I was wondering, I don't want to like don't want to use up too much of your valuable time, but did you have any follow-up questions? Can you not ask a question that we've already answered?
Well, I will let them guide me along. While I do that, again, for the audience, we've got a lot of things going on. We're right in the middle of flight coordination. So I'll ask a few questions, and if you want me to wrap it up with them, I need you to review your itinerary and mine and Brian's and make sure everything's groovy.
Business is like crap. This is filmmaking.
This is good though.
Cyril Tarigo has popped in and saved you. He's got a question, so I'm going to read his question.
Cool.
Okay.
Did you get any pushback / opposition from the larger media organizations that normally have the filming rights for the larger tournaments? Did you anticipate any if they had qualified?
And before you guys answer that,
you want me to do this?
Review these, and if you're good with them, call the last number on the Illinois number.
Got it.
And tell him we confirm those flights.
It's full film production over here. We've got for all our audience, we've got some of our friends filmmakers who are just making a film about Jordanian women's soccer. They've just come back and they've just gone through the chaos that Eric and I are about to enter into. So,
good luck, guys.
We'll let you answer that question. Do you need it again, or you've got?
Yeah, can you repeat it?
Yep. So.
Oh, I can do it. You can.
You got it. Okay.
Yeah. And feel free to get a hold of Shakut and tell him you're not arriving on the 12th.
Got it.
Oh, this is getting crazy. All right. So the question: did you get any pushback or opposition from the larger media organizations that normally have the filming rights for the larger tournaments? Did you anticipate any if they had qualified for that? So you guys are coming in doing a small documentary, and you were talking earlier about getting permissions and rights in the stadium, but everybody already has rights to all this, I assume. So if you want
Yeah, we definitely. I mean, I don't know if it's not even it pushed back. Yeah, we definitely got some. It's more, it all comes down to money, right? When someone's paying so much money for the rights to a tournament, it just makes everything much more complicated, especially for a small documentary crew like us. So, you know, we ended up getting full rights to film the games I think on like the second game. But, you know, we had to talk to a lot of people and just network around with a lot of people, but we still have to like license a lot of the footage, a lot of the game footage at least, because no matter what, it's, you know, it's one network that has the rights to that footage. So that's something that we're going to have to work out.
Did you have to financially license it? Is that what you're saying?
Not yet. We will have to do that.
So there was no understanding on their part that you're not impacting their broader broadcast. You're not upsurping them for their content. They didn't understand that.
No.
I kind of need an answer.
Not really, honestly. I mean, when they're just thinking about the billions of dollars that someone has paid, and these are the rules, that's all they care about. Yeah. So that was, like I was talking about earlier, that was probably the most difficult thing that we faced over there. So it's an interesting creative challenge for us in figuring out how to tell that part of the story. And especially considering that we're going to have to like pay to license a lot of the game footage at least.
Wow. Yeah. We know that.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with this statement. It is the policy, Mr. Naktib. It is the policy.
Yeah, it's rule.
Yeah, that guy's breaking the policy over there. But his brother's the minister.
Yeah. It's rules and it's who you know.
Yeah, very cool. So I assume we were about going to wrap this up because we had you guys here for about an hour.
Oh, wow.
Well, Viv already asked.
I can come in if you're going to do a wrap up.
Oh, do you? Yeah, let's do that.
Do we have any more questions?
I think we've gone through. I think I've read all of them. Did you want
the questions coming in?
Yeah, I like the questions.
Good questions. Well, maybe we can.
You're good at answering.
Everybody.
If you guys don't mind hanging on, yeah.
Usually it takes. I mean, everyone's listening, and so usually it takes them a second to kind of process what you've said, and then write. Particularly when we do.
Was this already asked? Yeah. But what happens to these young women now? And I ask that because of the culture they're in, they're doing sport over here. They were a big deal for a moment. What happens now to them?
That's Act 3 of the documentary. I think we filmed with some incredibly strong women. And so no matter what happens in their lives, like a defeat like this is not going to deter them from stopping their passion and playing soccer. I think that they're always going to find a way to play. For them, it's about finding, you know, for the younger player, it's about qualifying for a World Cup 4 years from now. For the older players, it's about finding a new dream, finding a new goal, a new passion, something that, you know, whether it's playing abroad in Europe or playing in the United States for a college. I think that the future is bright for all of them. And that's what I think is really exciting about the film, because even though it shows how tough life can be, just in knowing our characters, and I don't know this for sure because we haven't finished filming, but it shows that there's always hope at the end. There's always light at the end of the tunnel, and that there is something to hold on to. And I have faith that they will find that just because of who they are.
Well, that's good. We know that in some of the cultures we work inside of, if you did not perform for your country, your culture, then you're pretty much written off, if not in some countries sent to a work camp. If it's on a high level like the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, definitely for some of the younger players, I think they're definitely will keep playing on the team, I'm sure. It's a question for some of the older players, and what do they want to do? They might not have much more opportunity to play on the team. They might. It all kind of depends on what happens going forward. So it's hard to say. But like I said, just in knowing the passion that these girls have, they're going to find a way to play still.
Changing directions a little bit for everybody who's watching, how did you guys get involved in filmmaking, documentaries? You know, you were both, everybody was working over at Vivo, but how'd you get into this? A lot of the people who we interact with online kind of follow and watch what we do and are poking at it or starting to do this, and they're like, they find it extremely difficult and impossible, which we all know.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that, both of you?
I mean, for me, it started in high school. Like I just started doing video classes when I was in high school. We had like the morning announcements and we would make music videos. And from there, I never looked back. So I knew when I was going to college, I wanted to do production, journalism, TV, something in that realm. And I wanted to tell like nonfiction stories. And I guess I was lucky in that sense that I knew when I was 18 years old, 17, 18 years old. And I just kind of have always stuck with it. And I have always done different types of jobs along the way, like some corporate jobs, some reality TV, some music. But I've always stuck to what I've known, and that's just telling stories in a visual way.
And you guys are in your 20s, 30s. What?
I'm 30.
Okay.
I'm 25. We had our birthdays over in Jordan. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you guys, since Laura, you since high school have been going out at this. Do you consider that you've arrived at some level of success at this point, or?
God, that's a question I ask myself every day. I mean, I don't know if you can even answer that. I mean, success to me is finishing this film. That's a success to me, because it's so hard to make a film these days that finishing it and making something that I'm proud of would be a major success to me. And
Alyssa, how about your start? Why are you doing what you do? Where do you feel you've arrived?
Short recap, I guess. I got pretty lucky in college. I went to school for music and video production, and I joined a documentary class, just because I wanted to pick the music for the documentary. Like, that was the only reason I joined. And Brian, who I'm sure some of the viewers know, going to India with them, he was like the alumni / professor who was leading the whole thing. And so my first documentary I worked on was an adventure race in California, and Eric and Viv happened to be there. So then it just kind of like, I met them, kept working with Brian, kept doing these adventure race documentaries. And then I guess at Vivo, the work we were doing was like little mini docu style pieces. So I really fell into it, which is probably an annoying answer, because like I wasn't even really looking for it. It just happened. But it really is. It comes down to like who you know a lot of the times. So
the universe has a way with you, Alyssa.
It does.
The universe has a way of leading you in the right direction somehow. Yeah. I don't know. It always does.
A quick little recap right before we left for Jordan. I quit my job at Vivo because I was feeling rebellious. Well, for a lot of reasons. But
remember we're live here.
I know. So I quit my job.
And the confessions start.
Yeah, I quit my job, and I remember like a week went by, and I was like, wonder what I'm going to do for money and a career now. And then I get like a call from Lori being like, so I think we're actually going to Jordan. And I'm like, okay, cool. So then I was good for April.
Just for 1 second, were you able to call?
We're good. Yeah, we have flights to India, and everything's good. So that'll be
exciting.
That'll be stay tuned, and that'll be another adventure coming up, which I'm sure you're all too familiar with.
Yeah, we're just talking about, just finishing up the question about how they got started, and
oh, cool.
Where do they feel they've arrived at any level of success? And it was really interesting because it's along the lines of how we feel, that you don't quite ever really feel you're successful on a project, but then success becomes this ambiguous thing you chase constantly that you're not sure the people who say, "Oh, I've been successful," even understand what that means, because it's the process.
Exactly, it's the exactly, and I think it's the same in the documentary that we're working on. That you'll see, it's, you know, you think success is qualifying for the World Cup, but then what if they get to the World Cup, right? Then it's, you know, what is success then? It's this ever evolving thing. I think that you just have to develop personally, which is, I think, what's interesting with the girls in the film is they have to find what does success mean to them now. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's.
Why would no? You go. You obviously had something way more important than I was.
No, I was just going to say for everyone out there, Viv and I often get asked or told. We get told, "Man, you guys are so successful at what you do. Everything's successful.
It must be a dream job.
Dream job." And we always tell them, you know what, we're pretty happy about what we're doing, but you have no idea how many things are failures. Like, we walk on the failures to those successes. So everybody out there, success is in our minds just how you perceive what you're doing right now, and is it for you personally gratifying and you're making achievement.
I think one of my favorite quotes along these lines is, "It takes 10 years to become an overnight success."
Yes.
Everyone's like, "Oh man, you just came out of nowhere," and you're like, "No."
Sometimes I see successes as like how you deal with the failures. Like, you're like, wow, we got out of that. Cool. Like, that's a success.
Totally. And that's why it's like, if you never take a chance to fail at something, then you won't ever find success on the other side, I think. Which is why I think it's so important that you always have to just take those chances, which is why part of the reason we went to Jordan, because we're like, it's like, if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. And even if I fail, it's, you know, the failure would be worth it. And you have to find those things that just take those chances in life, and that's the only way I think that you'll find it down the line. But it's ever evolving.
Totally.
Yeah.
Out there for everybody who's been watching for the past hour with us. We've had a consistent like core group, and then some people have flitted in and out. What's the best way for people to follow you? If there's a personal channel, a website, or a film website, like, just go for nuts and promote what you need to promote. We'll put links up. How can people follow you guys now? Because our philosophy behind the crew is that although Eric and I helm the business of One Eye Open Productions, our crew YouTube channel and series is about the greater crew of film crew that we work with. And so Alyssa's part of that. You by default are part of that, Laurie, even though we technically haven't worked on a job yet. You're on the YouTube channel right now. So we like to update our audience. Our audience know who these reoccurring people are. So yeah, feel free to share what you share so people can follow you guys.
I mean, on Facebook, it's Jordan Football Dreams is the page name. And so you can go ahead and like it. And I mean, for me personally, I know I'll be posting stuff on my Instagram about the project, and I'm just at Laurie Schmoen is my Instagram, and that's probably where I'll post most of my stuff.
We're going to get this. Eric's typing that in.
And then what's the other one?
At Laurie, LORISHMON. SCHMON. SCHMON. So that's for the Instagram. And Laurie is the director of this project. Alyssa are you a producer on this one, Alyssa?
We talk about this all the time, like producer, sound engineer.
Story producer, crowdfunding lead.
Yeah, crowdfunding.
Everything.
What's your stuff? I mean, most people know you from the crew, but where can they get your information?
Well, you can probably get to this through our Facebook, but when we were over there, I did a little behind the scenes Tumblr blog just for fun. So if they want like a good laugh of behind the scenes, how we look when we're like on very, very little sleep and not really sure what we're doing.
Brand of the crew.
Yeah, you can go to our Tumblr.
What's the best way the Tumblr, so I can type it in?
Let's see. It's just called Jordan Football Dreams.
Okay, we got that.
No, but just Tumblr, so yeah.
All one word.
All one word, okay.
So.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Cool.
Well, thanks for joining us, guys. Sorry it got a little hectic there, but I kind of like it because it really showed
It's filmmaking.
how this happens. And it's like almost not daily, but weekly, definitely. We have a few days that are like this. And
it's
as do you guys.
chaos.
So, yeah, it's everybody asks, what's the formula? How do you do it? You know, what steps do you take? And hopefully everybody today could see that they're hearing from Lori and Alyssa and watching us. There are no steps. There's no way to predict this.
I would say if somebody is interested in a story and they really want to tell it, to just go for it. Like if you can risk putting some of your own money and personal time into it, you should just do it, or else it's never going to happen.
Totally. I think that's really super. Yeah, that's pretty good advice, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to point out that
any questions, by the way, but just to our audience, we're going to kind of end this very shortly. We're just giving you some chance to any last minute comments or anything for any of the four of us. Go for it.
And while we wait for your questions, wanted to let you know that
oh, there are some compliments coming in, by the way, not questions. Like people saying, great hearing about your documentary, certainly be checking it out. So although there haven't been specific questions, there's been a lot of support and enthusiasm for listening to what you guys have said.
Cool.
Awesome.
Ryan, who worked with these guys in Jordan, we mentioned earlier, he is going to be coming with us to India. We're going to talk to him about his experience with these guys and working on this documentary while we're in India. So we're going to try and hook up a few live things in India.
That's right, because actually, maybe just before we do let you know, there is a missing person in your team. If you wanted, I know you have mentioned Brian, but he was pretty instrumental in what you were doing as well.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, Brian came on as producer and, you know, helped make the trip happen. I mean, I don't know if all this would be possible without him. So thank you, Brian. And he really put a lot into it. So he, you know, it's a great collaboration, I think, between the two of us. And I'm excited to see the three of us really, but I'm excited to see how it continues to grow. So yeah, he will definitely have some interesting perspectives. So yeah.
Okay, well, so everyone to our crew, stay tuned because we're going to continue the Jordan football story with Brian, and we're going to do it in India. So if that's geographically confusing enough for you. We got more thank yous coming in. Yeah. Tracy Dobson is a very long-time viewer of ours, and so she says thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah,
thanks, Tracy.
I think we got some UK watching here.
Yep.
And Ireland.
Yep. Europe's awake right now, so we've had a couple of people saying hello. Enjoy India. Have a great live. You guys do a great live stream, so that was thanks to you guys today.
Cool.
So thank you guys. We really appreciate your time talking about your project, and we'll probably find a way to do it again when you're further down the project, and you can give everyone an update.
Or anytime you want to come on and chat with us and hang out and talk about whatever the heck you're doing, or you just feel like doing that, give us a call. We'll get online. We live about almost every day.
Cool.
Well, this was fun. Thank you guys so much.
All right.
You're
Thank
so
you.
welcome.
Excited to see India stuff.
Yeah. Have fun.
More craziness coming.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.